Hi all, welcome to the course of S for Security using Spring Security Framework and JSON Web Token. So in this course, what we're going to do is we're going to use a RESTful web application which we developed in our previous course of R for RESTful Web Services, and we're going to add security to our resources. Okay, so first let me do is walk you through the application that we developed. And first thing is we need to go to the GitHub and pull the source code. And this is a public project where you can pull the source code and add it to your IDE. So here is the application, and you can see that I have a flight controller which has all the different um, uh, methods or APIs like get flight, get all flights, get flight by flight number, create flight, update flight, and delete flight. So what we did is in our previous courses we added many functionalities around our flight resource, like we added Spring AOP, then we added Swagger, that is Open API documentation to all our resources. We also added validation and also logging and exception handling. So all those things you can find in the application here. Um, but now what we're going to do is we're going to take a step ahead and um, add security to our flight resource. So what the application is doing currently is trying to access a MySQL database, and I have the MySQL database running in a Docker container which is set up in a different machine. Okay, so all that configurations that we have for the database is in our application.properties file, and you can see that I'm using SQL Developer where I have Docker DB database, and in that I have flight DB, or you can say flight table. There are other tables here, but those were created as part of my personal practice when I was working on Spring Security. But for now, you can just focus on flight table, which has all these columns: flight ID, capacity, flight number, manufactured by, and manufactured on. And if you look at the data, we have three records. Okay, and let's try to run the application and see how the request looks when we try to access it through Postman. So the application is currently running. So let's go to our Postman, and here what I have is I have all three get methods and post, put, and delete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to access the get flight, and the URL for that is followed by the ID. So what is the ID here? The ID is 20. So let's try to access that. So 20 is the flight ID is the path variable here. So let's try to send this, and you can see it says not found. So what happened here? Okay, so here if you look at the application, we don't have the context path. So we directly have the URL mapping that is to the flight. Let's go to our get flight method here, and it is directly the flight. So let's go back here and correct this. We can add the context path if you want. Okay, and that will be again in our application.properties file, which we don't have. Like if you look at the application.properties file, I don't have the context path configured here, but you can configure, and which is always recommended to have a context path. But in our case, we don't have it, so it's just the flight followed by the flight ID. So let's try now, and now you can see that we get the data, that is the record, in a JSON format in the response. So with this, we can also get all flights. If you do all flights here and send, if you see here, we have all the flights available in the database. Similarly, we have flight by number, create, update, and delete. We can perform all this operation on the flight resource. And you can see here, without any authentication or authorization, we are able to access the resource here. Okay, So what we're going to do next is we're going to try to add the security to our flight resource. So how we're going to do that, we'll start implementing that in our next video. That's all for this. See you in the next session. Thank you.